Hey, Bob, Kelly, this is my mother, Joan Pinkerton.
Hi, nice to meet you.
You can wish her an early happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday early.
Yeah, really.
My wife, Mickey, and my sister, Patty.
Hey, how are you?
Hi,
How are you?
Hi, nice to meet you. Kelly.
It's the old home place for the Pinkerton family deep in the East Texas woods. Gary Pinkerton's childhood memories are here, woven into the landscape and lore of Rusk County.
So how long has this land been in your family?
My great-grandfather's parents came here 1870s, 80s, somewhere in there.
Have you always been interested in history?
I can't honestly say that I have been. I connected with bits and pieces of it, but it became very personal.
As Gary leads us into the woods, we are reminded that an historical landmark is not always a granite monument or towering memorial. What unfolds before us is a tiny section of a 180-mile Texas treasure.
Where we're standing is the remains of an old road, Trammell's Trace, which was an early historic trail from Arkansas into Texas before the time of Austin's colony in 1821. When Austin announced he was opening a colony and people flooded into Texas, this was the route that they took from the north. This is the road that they came down. They passed this point. It was the first really formalized road from the north. During that time period, pre-1821, there were really only two major roads, El Camino Real that ran east-west through Nacogdoches, and Trammell's Trace from Texarkana down to Nacogdoches. Houston and Bowie and Crockett came this route. Those three people, well known to anybody who's past 7th grade history in Texas,
We're right here.
were right here at one point on their way south.
As hard as it is to see in some places, the deep ruts made by wagon wheels more than 200 years ago are the fading remains of Trammell's Trace. Knowing that this was the main road into Texas from the north for so many years, it's hard to believe this corridor has been largely overlooked by historians for so long. Gary Pinkerton wrote the book on Trammell's Trace named after Nicholas Trammell, a notorious horse smuggler and shrewd businessman.
I knew early on that it was a story that was not being told by anyone else, and so it was one of those niche subjects that you bump into every now and then, where you realize this story hasn't been told yet. The information that's out there is false and inaccurate, and when I dig more and find more, the story becomes more and more interesting, not just about the road, but about Nicholas Trammell, who was just an interesting character as part of that history, and having his name attached to a road, having a person's name attached to a road was very unusual. He was a frontier businessman, and he would take your money at horse racing. He ran gambling houses, but Trammell was a man that anybody who did him wrong could expect to go to court and to be appealed to the highest level court that he could possibly go to. He did not accept being treated badly or being wronged in any ways. It took a long time. I dabbled at the research for almost 10 years.
I know how many years he studied in dusty libraries and courthouse records to get all of this information. And then I'm just so proud of him for his talent for being able to put it in words that make it so interesting to someone that's not even familiar with the location.
The trace is named for a Tennessean, Nicholas Trammell, a smuggler who is credited with linking early Indian trails to bring American settlers to the Mexican territory of Texas. Trammell's Trace was a major route for immigration in the early 1800s and played an important role in the establishment of the Republic of Texas. The Daughters of the Republic of Texas called me and said they were interested in doing a Trammell's Trace marker in Nacogdoches, and explained the medallion So I thought, oh, nice of a day to mention a Trammell's Trace. I had no idea they were planting a 4-foot black granite marker with text on both sides to tell as much of the story. On this west side of the Red River, people would have followed the trail to the southwest a bit, crossing down these old Indian trails down into a point where the boundary that later became Rusk and Panola County was Trammell's Trace, and into Nacogdoches, where it met up with the El Camino Real.
In Nacogdoches, this granite monument that carries Gary's name tells the story of Trammell's Trace. This very spot, 2 centuries ago, was the major intersection in all of Texas. It was a road paved not with asphalt, but with hardship and sacrifice. And Gary has documented almost every inch of this 180-mile path.
When you come down to a place like this and you realize what happened around you in the past, it becomes very quiet. And, people that you can tell when they get a sense of that history by the look on their face.
It's almost like being in church. It's kind of a sacred place, isn't it?
It is, and in the old roadways, the trees generally will arch over time like a spire in a chapel, but it does inspire a certain reverence that you don't feel in a lot of places.
Do you ever wonder what they were thinking as they were walking along here?
Don't you wonder?
The life was so hard, we have a difficult time imagining what they went through. Why would somebody leave land they know of and that they,
To go
own already, to go somewhere they
have.
know nothing about?
So what's your dream for this?
I've had grand visions of some sections of the trace being walkable by others and, being able to be interpreted. But I think the dream is to get it communicated to other generations right now.
That's your dream. What's your fear?
My fear people forget about it.
For a boy who played in these woods and always wondered about the deep ruts that seemed to have no ending, no beginning, and no explanation, Gary Pinkerton has secured this place in history. One man's curiosity and stubborn determination that lifted the veil covering one unwritten chapter of this incredible land we call Texas.
Big moments in history, the big splashes that we think about or remember, are sometimes just begun by very common people, just by everyday people doing what they do to make their lives every day.